well. Okay. All right, Madam Chair, Laura Dunn,
Present.
Madam Vice Chair, Letty Moretti,
Present.
Secretary Treasurer Daryl Roberts,
Here.
Dr. Megan Larrabee. All right, she's absent. Greg Pack,
Here.
Jeff Helfrich. All right, he is also absent, and Megan Ramey.
Here.
Great. So there are 2 board members missing, but we do have a quorum.
Thank you, Amy. I have a change to the agenda, and that is I'd like the board to table the ED job description from consideration in our action items for today. And we'll be scheduling another special meeting for our board to come to consensus on the duties and competencies that we want to prioritize in our search and agree to some outlines of the hiring process and strategy. Can I get a motion to approve the consent agenda?
This is Letty. I'll make that motion.
Can someone second?
Second.
And all in favor?
I'm sorry, who made that second? Was that Megan?
Yes.
And Laura, you may want to ask if anybody has any
Oh,
comments or
thank
issues
you,
about.
Patty. Are there any questions or comments on this before we vote?
Yeah, I do.
Go ahead, Daryl.
I kind of feel like we're delaying this process over and over again. And I'm concerned about Patty feeling like we're not getting on the stick here and getting this done. Since she's the one who wants to retire eventually. So my concern is, I mean, I hear you saying we'll schedule a special meeting to get this done, and I'm fine with that. I just would like to know that it'll be done in the very near future, because I don't want to keep kicking the can down the road here, so to speak.
Yeah, I appreciate your comments, Daryl. I'm not trying to drag my feet on this. I'm trying to be mindful of all the steps that we need to take to ensure we attract the best candidate who's going to be the best fit for us. I felt like this job description needed some extra work that I had the time to put into this weekend. And I think I'll have something more digestible I will have something more digestible to present to this board in our packet for that meeting in the next few days. And I just think we'll be able to be more efficient in a special meeting with some time to prepare for that. And but yes, we will be sure to get that done soon. And I came to the decision to table this together with Patty, who I think agrees with this strategy.
Okay,
So I thank you for your patience and with the extra meetings. Like I said, I think that this will be a more efficient way to go about it.
okay, then I'm fine with that.
Okay, then or any other comments or concerns?
The sticky note has the information.
Okay, all in favor then of altering the agenda for today as described?
Aye.
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 Oh,
Okay. I think we're unanimous there. Thank you.
Actually, I think Megan didn't vote, so we've just noted her down as, I think you came in and weren't quite
Oh,
sure what.
I'm sorry, I didn't know Megan came in.
It's okay. We can keep.
Okay. Okay. Duly noted. All right, so with that changes, before I move on, I understand that one of our staff members has some exciting life news that she's going to share with our board.
Yes. Hi, everybody. I just want to let you guys know that I am pregnant and I will be due at the end of January. So, and I will be taking time off after the kid is born. So just wanted to share that.
Congratulations.
Oh, thank you.
Yay.
That's great news, Amy. Congratulations. Thank you for sharing. Okay, moving on to the minutes. We're looking at the August 18th and the August 31st board meeting minutes are in the packet. I noticed a couple of small typos in there, just that the word founding was written instead of funding on October 18th, and then on the August 31st minutes, the adjournment heading says 5:30, and that should be removed for clarity purposes. Were there any other changes? I mentioned that to Amy already. Are there any other changes that anyone wanted us to consider? Could I get a motion to approve the minutes?
This is Greg. I'll make that motion.
Can someone second?
I second. Megan seconds.
Thank you. All in favor?
Aye.
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 Chair votes aye. On to public comment. Now's the opportunity for a public comment regarding a discussion item that's not on the agenda today. Is there anyone who'd like to make a public comment?
This is Tracy and I would like to, but there's no raise your hand button again. So if someone else is on, I don't know who else might want to comment as well.
Go ahead, Tracy.
Okay, thanks. This is Tracy Thomas Paul, Hood River. Thank you for responding to the note I sent a few weeks ago. I'm looking forward to hearing today's discussion about procedural changes to better adhere to the bylaws. I would like to mention that at least one statement involving part of the interview process remains concerning as the board moves forward with an attempt to hire a replacement for Patty. That one was, quote, references were checked and an internet search was conducted. This is a passive voice statement that obscures who was actually tasked with the work and therefore missed the numerous articles about Mr. Ando's work experiences that should have raised a serious red flag. I'll simply suggest then that for the next background screen for your next candidates, a couple things might be good to bear in mind. Remember that most private and public companies and agencies too now have what is called a neutral reference policy. That means to avoid litigation, the company or agency simply states that over a period of time, the person worked there. They don't give information about their performance. Meanwhile, references provided by the candidates themselves have to be taken with a grain of salt as they're naturally going to be biased positively. LinkedIn should always be checked, even though it's a document that people prepare on their own. It often contains a lot of interesting surprises. A Google search using John Ando Transit would have yielded a number of articles that should have triggered concern. If the people who did the internet searches saw those and ignored them, they don't understand how to do good searches. If they missed them, same issue. If they read them and decided to disregard them, that's a failure of due diligence. And finally, the response to my letter said that Ando's contract was drawn up to avoid, quote, residual concerns with the following safeguard: clause prohibiting work for outside of CAT without board approval. That clause isn't really a safeguard because it doesn't prevent the problem and didn't prevent the problem of Ando holding multiple jobs. If he was hired with full knowledge that he was already employed at 2 other places, someone should have been checking his LinkedIn info where he was very open about posting his job acceptance in North Carolina at the same time he took the CAT role, and then calling him out about it much earlier. Instead, the board has now lost 9 months of time to a poor hire, with the result that it's now scrambling to figure out how to complete the TMP and needing to redo the hiring. Second, Mr. Ando's contract allowed him a number of pieces of property: access to a vehicle, a cell phone, laptop, credit card, and tablet for business use only. In the meeting where his employment was terminated for breach of contract, the board stated that he'd receive a letter informing him of his termination and asking for the return of CAT property. I'd like to ask that you let the people in Hood River County know when or if those pieces of property paid for through CAT funds have been returned or not. Thank you.
Thank you. The materials have been returned.
Excellent.
Thank you for your comments. Are there any other public comments? Okay, Teresa Galucci from our team accounting is here to present the financial overview.
Good afternoon. The financials are through the end of August 31. We had a total of 1.1 million in cash on hand. It's a little bit less, it's 96,000 less than what we had in July, but it's still 63,000 more than we had last year at this time. Grant reimbursements that we've requested totaled 586,000 in August. Through the beginning of September to date, we've received 76,000 of that amount. Once the quarterly payments are all processed, those funds will be coming in shortly anytime. AP at the end of August was 30,000, and of that amount, 6,000 was for the air conditioner repair, and 13,000 was for payment on the credit card for a variety of items. I, again, have given Daryl detailed reports, so if you have any questions about those two things, feel free to reach out to him. Revenue so far this year is 441,000. August alone, we earned 162,000, and that puts us 85,000 ahead of budget. So we're in a really good position there. The personnel costs are, they were $5 off budget. So we're right on target for budget for personnel. And net income, was 67,000 year to date at the end of August, which is about 82,000 better than last year at this time. And we are 99,000 better than what we had budgeted. So top to bottom, we are in a really good position. Does anybody have any questions? Cool, thank you.
Excellent. Thank you, Teresa.
Hi, can I make a statement here?
Yes.
I do want the board to know that I do review the financial statements that Teresa sends out each month before the meeting, and I do send my questions to her and Patty to get answers to, and invite them to either answer them during the meeting or send me the answers, and they have been responding to that.
Thank you.
Thank you, Daryl.
We're moving on to the resolution and action items. The board has received memos regarding the first 3 action items, which are all housekeeping items. Would anyone like to discuss the first 3 action items or suggest changes? This is public information request and policy, public information request policy and fee schedule, the board bylaws, and the committees. Right. Let me start with the top one on the public information request policy and fee schedule. Any questions or comments or items for discussion there? Board bylaws and committees. Okay, if there are no questions, can I get a motion to approve all of these actions?
I'll make that motion.
Do I have a second?
Second that.
All in favor?
Aye.
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 Chair votes aye. For the last item, Gorge to Mountain Service Planning and FLAP grant, Patty is going to discuss in more detail since there was not a memo in the packet. Patty go ahead, please.
Yeah, so in FY 2019, CAT received Federal Lands Access Grant through the Federal Highways Administration for $485,000 to run a winter shuttle from Hood River along State Highway 35 to Mount Hood during fiscal years 19, 20, and 2021. Mount Hood Meadows graciously offered to help us provide the match for that grant. The Gorge Mountain Shuttle has been a popular winter service, and despite the COVID-19 pandemic, was able to meet its ridership goals for the 2-year grant period. While CAT has anticipated that new FLAP grant application would cover the FY 22 through 24 grant cycle period, when the application cycle opened, we learned it would not cover this year, fiscal year 2022, but would be eligible for the fiscal year 23, 24, 25. CAT currently has asked ODOT to provide $67,000 in funding to support this, to support winter service this year as a fill gap. Mount Hood Meadows has again agreed to provide funding to support the service this year, which would leave about $75,000 shortfall. This amount is consistent with the annual amount set aside for the Gorge to Mountain service in the district's FY 22 through 24 STIF plan. For the FY 23, 24, and 25 grant period, CAT is looking at requesting $850,000 in funding to maintain existing winter service. Then expand the service to year-round with enhanced shuttle connections between Government Camp, Timberline, Mount Hood Meadows for winter access, and a trailhead shuttle from Government Camp, Timberline, and Mount Hood Meadows parking lots to trailheads in the summer. This proposal is consistent with the regional vision around the mountain study recently completed by ODOT and the service recommendations that the board adopted in their FY fiscal year 2019 Hood River to Government Camp Transit Feasibility and Implementation Study. The action that's required in order to submit a request to ODOT for the $67,000 in funding to support this year's Gorge to Mountain service gap, the board must approve the $166,000 in funding for the Gorge to Mountain in the FY 22 budget year, with $75,000 coming from CAT STIF funds and the remaining coming from ODOT, Mount Hood Meadows, and other partners. In order for staff to submit a FLAP grant for the subsequent FY 23, FY 24, and FY 25 grant period by October 7th, the board must approve a minimum of 10.27 match, or about $87,295 for the 3-year period. CAT will be working with Mount Hood Meadows, Timberline, Clackamas County, and other partners to secure other funding support for the service. The options that were available to the board would include the board can opt not to provide the Gorge to Mountain route any longer. The board can opt to approve funding for fiscal year 2022 budget year and ask staff to reduce the FLAP grant submittal to existing service levels, which would be about $250 for the 3-year period with a match requirement of about $25,675. The board can opt to approve the fiscal year 2022 budget year and ask staff to reduce the FLAP grant submittal that does not include the enhanced year-round shuttle connection between Government Camp, Timberline, and Mount Hood Meadows, which is about $450,000 for a 3-year period with a match requirement of $46,215 or some variation thereof. Staff recommends that the board approve $166 in funding for the Gorge to Mountain in FY 22, in the FY 22 budget year, with the $75,000 coming from the CAT STIF funds and the remaining coming from ODOT, Mount Hood Meadows, and other partners, and would also recommend that they direct staff to submit the grant application for $850,000, which would include a minimum match of $87,295 over the 3-year grant period. Staff has been actively working with partners both in Hood River County and beyond regarding services in this corridor. The recently completed Vision Around the Mountain study is one such effort. This study indicated the importance of transit service up to and around the mountain for the local economy, livability, and equitable access to jobs and recreation in Hood River and Clackamas counties. We have seen strong ridership and interest from riders and residents in the Mount for the Mount Hood connection and believe the proposal is consistent with both existing and future needs along Highway 35. And there may be somebody on the phone that would like to make comment with regard to the proposal.
Jeremy, go ahead.
Yeah, this is Jeremy with Mount Hood Meadows, and I think that this service is a very critical piece of, connecting public transit to having access around the full mountain. And, it was very successful the first year. Last year, I think, did well. COVID definitely, played a part of making it having some challenges, but, this service for having, employees having access to the mountain from both the government camp and Hood River side, and just, reducing traffic and whatnot on the highway, I think is a very critical thing to continue forward with. And Mount Hood Meadows is definitely committed to working with CAT in some form of partnership to help support it and see it forward.
Thank you, Jeremy. It's so nice to hear your voice. Thanks for the support.
Yeah, no problem. Anything to help continue to provide an opportunity for transit around the mountain and, that bigger picture, I think, is a really neat part of that service.
I was part of the Vision Around the Mountain working group, and just would like to lend my support for seeing this happen. I was also, full disclosure, Jeremy was my boss when I worked at Mount Hood Meadows, and I saw I guess the before picture before we started offering this service, and saw parking attendees just kind of pulling their hair out. And I think we're providing such a great, valuable service for Mount Hood Meadows, Timberline, and Government Camp for beyond just the tourists, it's the employees. So that's my 2 cents.
I'll second both you, Megan, and Jeremy. That I think that, especially as a community member, and when we look at transit and how we want to help the local community, but also the economy, and economy being more thinking of tourism. To me, I feel like this is such an example of it helps the locals get up to the mountain, and it also helps, like you said, reduce the or everybody get up to the mountain. It helps reduce congestion, but also my understanding is Mount Hood Meadows is one of the largest employers in the region. And so it's helping people to get up to the mountain for work. And I think that that's really important that we try to accommodate that as well versus just tourism. I don't say just tourism, but I feel like a lot of our efforts.
I agree with it as well. And I think it enhances safety in that area as well.
Absolutely.
And this is Greg. Obviously, I can't vote on this and have to recuse myself on that, but firm supporter in that. Anytime we get people off the roads and have less traffic out there, I think the bus is an important part. We are the third, in the top 3 employers in the county. We have over 1,400 employees, but to note with that, we run our own employee shuttle service on separate buses that we manage and run, just to get our team up there and manage that separately. But the CAT program, some of our employees do use it, but it's designed for the guests and is a great asset to getting people up the mountain.
I agree. So I'd like to make a motion to move forward with the staff recommendation of $166,000 per year for the next 3 years. Did I get that correct?
No, the 166,000 is for the FY22 budget year, with 75,000 coming from the CAT stiff funds, and then you would direct us to go ahead and submit the FLAP grant application for $850,000, which would include year-round service and a specific shuttle between that would target both winter and summer recreational users and other folks.
Okay, so the motion is to move forward with staff recommendations to provide this service in partnership with Mount Hood Meadows, ODOT, and using STIF dollars.
And I don't know
Like
if I
second?
use myself, but I have.
Oh, sounds like we have a second from Megan. Okay, then all in favor?
Can I just clarify that can I just clarify just so we know what, for sure, what we're voting on? We're both
Yes.
voting on including it in the budget for this year with CAT providing funding towards it this year, and also submitting a grant application for to FLAP for fiscal year 23, 24, and 25. Just making sure that we are all.
And Letty and Megan, can you affirm that was what you were supporting in your motions?
Yes, that was my understanding, the long term.
Yes.
Thank you.
Okay, are we ready to vote on that motion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Can I abstain?
You abstain? Okay,
I'm not sure how I feel about the summertime service, so I'd rather not vote on it.
Can we talk about it? Yeah, Daryl, I'd like to hear about your concerns.
Well, I just know that we're not talking about where would they stop, who. There's a lot of overloading on the summertime activities up there already. I'm not sure that running buses up there in the summertime is going to help that. So I'm all in favor of the wintertime service, but I have some hesitancies about the summertime service.
Just so you know, Daryl, we can submit the grant for the full amount, and as we have more specifics, if we're awarded the contract, before we sign the contract, we need to come back to the board to approve the contract. And we should have a lot more information to provide you at that point. A lot of it, the grant application as of right now is being developed in relationship with the Forest Service. They do support us with the idea that they could encourage folks to park at, coming from the Portland area to park at Mount Hood Meadows, and then have a shuttle bus that would go to trailheads along Highway 35 or to park here in Hood River and have a shuttle bus taking folks up to the trailheads. So we're looking at, sorry.
Keep going.
Okay, and we're just looking at with ODOT and the Forest Service about where the buses would stop, what trailheads it would stop at. And if there are trailheads that are overburdened, the bus could potentially not stop at those trailheads. So we're working that out with the Forest Service to try and find ways to be a productive organization. That particular service would not start until the FY24 fiscal year. So we have a couple of years to finalize all the stops and all the other related issues or concerns that the board may have.
Okay.
Megan Larrabee, did you have a comment or question to add?
Wanted to add, even though I wasn't part of the vision around the mountain, but as a community member, I think even in the summer, I know we think of the winter of inclement weather going up the mountain, but I've driven I live off of 35 and it's a safety issue, absolutely, in the summer with all people like trying to park at small places to go hiking and pulling out onto 35 where it's busy and there's some blind corners. So I totally support like anything to reduce the traffic of parking and safety. I think that I've seen both the winter and the summer where it could be of value.
That I've noticed that the trailheads around Mount Hood are more crowded since the 2017 fires in the gorge and pushing people out of the gorge and over to the mountain more. I think we might want to look at ways to be able to increase bicycle capacity, because I know a lot of people do go up there with bikes. But those are details we could talk about later, I think, for summer. Daryl, you still want to abstain on your vote? It's fine. We have, I've lost track of the ayes here. Were those present in the room are Megan and Greg, is that right, of the board?
Well, Greg's not voting on this issue.
Greg's not voting. So Megan, did you voted aye? Or did you vote? You voted aye. So we have Megan, Letty, and Megan.
I'll vote aye.
Okay.
Reluctant.
All right, and chair votes aye. Thank you, Patty, and staff for the work on that. So we'll move to operations manager report.
Hey, he's out of the office, so I'm just gonna go ahead for him. Our safety score was pretty much the same as it has been in July and June. We had no crashes. There were a couple of harsh events, which I can't. I will have Ty, when he gets back into the room, talk a little bit about. The drive time was a little bit higher than it has been in the past. There was about what we've done, a percentage over the speed limit. Once again, most of those are related to passing. So a very small amount, just drivers speeding up to get around somebody. And our miles driven were slightly higher in August than they were in June or July. Pretty consistent though. Our on-time performance, pretty much consistent, a little bit higher for most of our routes. Also saw a higher level of on-time performance for DAR trips within 5 minutes of the arrival time. So that is all good news. The fuel used is pretty consistent with what we did in July, slightly lower than June and May and April, where we had some extra service on the road due to the Dog Mountain Shuttle. Our miles per gallon was also pretty consistent. Diesel fuel used was a little bit higher. We were using more of the diesel vehicles than we were of the other vehicles. Our miles per gallon was 8.1, slightly higher than it has been, and the fuel costs are on the rise. Not great, but still under what we budgeted. We have 2 vehicles that were under repair. We've had some issues with repair because our contracted mechanic had COVID, was in the hospital, luckily recovered, but is still not 100% working. And so we've had some issues getting minor repairs done. But we're working with a variety of other area-wide mechanics to get those done.
And it will just note too that mechanics in general right now are in shortage.
Yeah.
And there's staffing issue for auto repair shops, just like there is for just about everywhere else.
Yeah. Thank you for mentioning that. Yes, we it's an oversight on my part. We're working very, very hard to get mechanics, but literally we, Point S had folks, a mechanic leave. Other mechanic shops have said it's 3 weeks for repairs to get done. Ty has worked his magic and Wender, him along with his field supervisor staff to ensure that vehicles get back on the road as soon as they can. And I was a little worried
right now.
I was a little worried. Yeah, he just got one down again today. I was a little worried this weekend, but I don't know where Ty did it, but he managed to pull a feather out of his cap and
All that credit goes to Chelsea.
Chelsea, yeah. So we're thrilled with the fact that we were able to keep and maintain all the service on the road. Joe,
Do we jump ahead in the agenda?
yeah, I'm sorry, I'm just doing while you were
Oh,
out. You
Okay,
could take the driver of the month.
yeah. Did you do performance report already? Did we?
I did, yeah.
Okay, so whatever performance report. Joe Sepulveda is our driver of the month. He's been with us for about 3 years. He comes during the summer and then he goes to Arizona during the winter. So he's our summer only driver. And this year he's come out and he's been amazing. Anytime there's no driving, he comes down and he'll clean the buses. You can't stop him from doing stuff. I think he's the oldest driver and he's will not stop working. If he's here, he's cleaning a bus, he put up a mailbox, he's doing cement, he's always doing something. So for all the above reasons, Joe is the driver of the month. He did the performance report.
Did not do the ridership.
Did not do the ridership?
Mhm.
Okay, jump into the ridership. Okay, so August was great for ridership. It was pretty much up across the board. The city route was right at 4 boarding rides an hour. Dial-A-Ride is down slightly. The Upper Valley increased very slightly. The Dalles was up a decent to significant amount. Columbia Gorge Express was up a decent amount. A lot of that, according to the drivers, is due to the PCT weekend that was in August. There's a lot of hikers that come through for that. Weekend Crawley was up significantly. And then the seasonal service is we're running a weekend service over to White Salmon. And that one did okay for a brand new service. But yeah, overall boarding rides per hour are up almost a whole ride per hour over July.
We are still estimating that we're probably down about a half to a third due to COVID. Certainly the recent sort of walk back of or the recent surge in COVID in August, September has helped to drive some of the ridership down. So we are still pretty darn impressed with that we're continuing to see ridership move forward.
And thank you for including the previous, adding to the previous month so we can see the comparisons to last year's same month.
And we should have a full ridership report of the last couple of years done by the end of this month that will have an ongoing comparison as well.
Very impressive when you look at the numbers in the last year. You all should be very proud.
Yes. Especially for August.
Okay, so fall service update, or do we have any other ridership questions? Okay, fall service update. So we are proposing reducing our service levels on the Columbia Gorge Express by about 40%. Link will likely take over the trips going from the Dalles to Hood River. We're gonna cut back the city service a little bit in the evening and the morning.
those are our times when we have the lowest ridership, and as it starts to get light later and later and darks earlier and earlier, those tend to drop off. So right now, during the weekday, we do about 71 service hours. The proposal that we have at the moment for fall is about 51 service hours during a weekday. Weekend right now, we're at 36 service hours, and our proposal is about 20. So we're cutting back a decent amount. Most of those are, well, some of them are the summer service, like the white salmon and seasonal stuff. But then the major cutbacks are gonna be on the Columbia Gorge Express. And then
Yeah,
Hopefully
it's
those
the one
service
that
hours
goes to
will-
Portland. And
Right.
part of the reason, yeah, that we do that is because we are expecting if we can move through COVID, we are expecting there to be increased ridership next year, and we will have a little extra cushion with the grant funds to add additional service during the summer season. And we don't feel like it will be a significant mitigating factor, as the buses will still be, the first one will still be out of the gate at 5:40 and returning from Portland at 7.
We'll still have our same first trip out,
Yeah.
which is 5:30, and then last trip out is 5:15.
So people who are going to work still can
Get there, yeah.
continue to use our service for commuting between Portland and River.
And the last trip back, they can also.
6:25
Yeah,
for Portland
yeah,
back here.
yeah.
It's just reducing the middle of the day service. And we will put,
How many of our bus stops have schedules posted yet?
the live digital ones.
Well, of any kind. Tell us about the picture of that overall.
So to go into our live digital signs, they have also, they just emailed last week saying they are also experiencing the microchip shortage. So they are pushing our delivery out likely till the first of the year. That being said, we put schedules on all the Columbia Gorge Express stops. So we have a big TV here that has the schedule on it, and then we post paper schedules in the Cascade Locks shelters. The ones on Multnomah Falls tend to disappear. We do have the staff there during every day now until the end of this week. So they've been very helpful with that. And then at Gateway, we do have an actual sign posted. We do hope to get the digital signage out.
We have received some of the digital signs, though, correct?
We have received some of them, but they're not like the full, we can't put
Okay.
those ones out.
So we are thinking about putting, we've had great success with this barcode or the scan code. Particularly for the fairs, but we're also looking at using the scan code so that folks can go directly to the page on our website that does talk about
Schedule.
the schedule for the trips. So.
Great. I'd like to see that in the city routes too.
Yeah, our goal is to have those digital signs up at all of them, which are supposed to be by the end of this month, but COVID delays on everything.
I understand why we need to make these changes. When did you say that we wanted them to go into effect? And are we making sure that we're communicating to our riders who are riding during those hours ahead of time? Or how are we doing that?
So to answer your first question, the last day of our summer service will be October 1st, and then Saturday, the 2nd, would be the first day of the fall or winter service.
And with regards to the communications piece, I did send out a newsletter on Tuesday, I believe, through all those who have signed up, just letting people know about the different changes. Early next week, we will have these new schedules posted on our website. There will be a link on each different schedule that says, check out the schedule that will start October 2nd. And we are also, there are planned postings for people to know about this on our social media as well.
And all of the posters will be changed in the shelters before that time.
Are you removing runs only, or are you also altering the schedule?
For the Columbia Gorge Express, we are removing runs only. The Columbia Gorge Express and the city route, removing runs only. With some of the other services, there's some small changes just to accommodate the driver's schedule, basically.
Ensure efficiency for
Yeah.
For our
efficiency
schedule.
and possibility of actually doing it.
And also changing it a bit to work more for the community
Yeah.
needs.
Is this similar to what we did last year or 2019?
It is, because of the COVID, and that's largely a large portion of it because our ridership still is down, and we typically have seen ridership drop after September. We think that these still offer enough service for folks to be able to get into the Portland metro area to appointments and other opportunities, but help to reduce some of the service so that we aren't seeing significantly empty buses and low ridership.
Being efficient with our services. And it's always, we offered the extra services, and if people aren't using it, then scaling back. It's understandable. So do you need a motion from us?
No motion. We're just going to go ahead and do it unless
Okay.
there are concerns from the board.
Okay, are there
Thanks.
any other operations, comments or questions?
I think we have one more agenda item, which is
Vehicle
the vehicle update.
Oh, the vehicle update, thank you.
So right now we have, I don't know how much detail everybody wants to go into. We're supposed to have a operations committee meeting, but with Jeff and timing didn't line up. Short answer. So right now we have one minivan. We have 5 cutaway vehicles, 2 low floor cutaways, so 7 cutaways total. 3 short Gillig buses, 3 motor coaches, and 2 international buses that we got from ODOT that were previously running the Columbia Gorge Express. So we have 16 total vehicles. Of those 16 total vehicles, we have 7 operating vehicles. We were supposed to receive, or we have 4 new vehicles on order, including 2 electric vehicles. Those are supposed to be delivered by June. They have been delayed repeatedly, so we still do not have delivery dates on the new vehicles. We also had our mechanic has been out for about 2 months. He was in the hospital and they didn't think he was going to make it. He is fortunately home. He's still on oxygen currently. But it has been quite the struggle with vehicles and maintenance this year. Sounds like the new vehicles are being constantly delayed because they don't have microchips. And then it's been quite difficult to get parts for any of our diesel buses. I don't know if you want to go into detail on each specific type or anything, or just a brief overview to start.
So the reason we have so many vehicles, but only a few of them being used, is the other ones just aren't operable because of maintenance issues. Is that right?
So we have two of them that need new transmissions. We have a couple of that need ECU controllers. There's 2 of them that are in great operating condition that just the passenger door won't open. We actually have a guy that's from the other side of Portland out here today, and he's been great for us looking at stuff. So hopefully he gets some of this list resolved. But they're all over the place from major mechanical issues to minor safety issues, or the door won't open, so not very good for passengers.
And I don't know if Ty mentioned, but we do have 4 new buses on order. They were supposed to be delivered before this year came in. Once again, we're just waiting, and that's part of the reason that we're in the trouble that we are, is that we expected those buses to be delivered and they've been delayed.
And it's good to note that, of course, this is not just a us problem with the new buses. This is an issue that transit agencies across the country are seeing. And I was on a meeting the other day, and they were, ODOT was actually suggesting that people order buses as soon as they can, even if they aren't expecting to need them in the next 2 years because of the delays.
Any other questions regarding vehicles? Okay.
Right. Thank you, Ty. Patty, are you ready for the executive director's report on Multnomah Falls update?
Yeah, so just gonna be, we are ending the program with Forest Service and ODOT with the permitting program as of September 19th is the last day. We will have a debrief on September 20th with ODOT and the Forest Service regarding the program that was implemented. There's an ongoing discussion between ODOT, the Forest Service, and several other partners regarding how to address the parking and safety issues, congestion issues in and around Multnomah Falls for next year. So we're thrilled that ODOT and our Forest Service partners are going to move forward with changes. We think it will help to strengthen and support the Columbia Gorge Express service. And we are ready to be there to help them support whatever program or projects they've got going on there.
It's been a really successful partnership.
It has been a very successful partnership. Yep. And I just got big kudos from the Forest Service today on a phone call, thanking us for all of our hard work with them. So
it's great. Thank you. Okay, thank you for that. On to discussion items. Bookkeeper administrative assistant memo is in our packet. And that's the first to discuss. Patty, do you want to speak to that at all?
We had plans to begin to bring some of the administrative work in-house. We've talked with our accountant. She is in favor of us doing that. We think that bringing somebody in-house to do the day-to-day bookkeeping will help to streamline the accounts payable and receivable process. We'll be able to more effectively integrate it with the grants management process and provide a more efficient approach to scheduling and payroll. So we think those are real positive things. We also think that we've been planning to do that, but because of the recent staffing issues here, we'd like to push that. We had planned to do it sort of towards the beginning of January and make that transition, but because of staffing issues, we'd like to push it up and do it more quickly, get somebody on board as soon as we can. We also feel like bringing a full-time person that would do both bookkeeping and administrative assistance could help free up staff, myself and Amy and Ty to complete the work that's necessary to do the TMP. So those are sort of, and also Places, we are just heard from ODOT that we should expect the amount of federal funding we get to increase by as much as 50%, 30 to 50% over the next year. And we think that puts us in a great position to be able to ensure that we get our portion of the federal pie, both in terms of vehicle resources as well as operating resources. So we think that could be long-term also a very good move a position for us.
I guess I would comment, I asked you guys to come back with a job description and more detailed plan, and, read through it, you guys did exactly that. Job description looks great, and I know from experience, anytime you have the rest of your staff doing other administrative functions, taken away from what their key role is, to improve the business, whether it's operational wise, marketing, communication wise, if they're spending time doing admin work, you lose good people over that when they're not using their full skill set or concentrating on what they should. And in the absence of what needs to happen with grant writing and everything else, really, like I'm in favor of. So thank you for bringing back more detail.
I think it's a very sensible plan too, especially because it does free up our, as Greg is suggesting there, it really does free up our staff to do the executive level work on that TMP. I think that it also will, from my discussions with Patty on this, I think that this will help us bridge that time when Amy will be out on parental leave as well, so that Patty isn't juggling too many different jobs.
You're gonna be out a day or two?
Yeah, actually just a couple hours.
And this is different, just to clarify, from the part-time person we're bringing in-house, like the contractor?
Yeah, the contractor is just coming in part-time to help us get back on track with the TMP. We're probably about 2 months behind, and she'll help
Okay.
us move forward. My hope is that we'll have something, the service areas that we're planning for the, to break out and review as part of the TMP process. And maybe some of the demographic information as well as the public engagement plan to provide to the board by the October meeting, though maybe we've had a little bit of difficulty getting one of the contractors on board. So we will, beginning Monday, I think, have somebody on board. And so it'll either be October or November when we make that presentation.
Sorry, Patty, I didn't hear the tail end of what you just said. So end of October or November when that person will come on?
No, that they should be on September 20th. Unfortunately, they took a vacation, so they were out for a couple of weeks. So, but should be on board and ready to help us on Monday, and we should expect to have something to you either at the October or the November board meeting.
Oh, at the board meeting. Okay, great.
It is for the October board.
Yeah, that's the target at this point, but
Things may change. Yeah.
We'll see. Working hard.
Yeah, and just to also just add a little bit to what Patty was saying, and Greg actually too, for this position, so for this bookkeeper position, a lot of the tasks, so a lot of it is we'd be taking in-house from the accountant. So those are funds that we're going to recoup over the next several years, because we won't be paying the accountant. But also what they will be doing is some of the stuff that I have been doing. And because of the staffing issues, there's just been a lot on my plate. And this, having someone have more dedicated time to it, will allow us to go, like Patty was saying, go after those different grants, spend more detailed time going through it and tracking it and really giving it the time it needs. And then that allows me to spend more time on transit master plan, but then also once that's done, I'm actually implementing the transit master plan. So it's not just filling that short-term need of when I'm gone or our current staffing issues, but it actually puts us in the right spot. So going forward, we have the people we need to expand our services, get those additional funding, and implement what the transit master plan has identified.
Are there any other questions or concerns about this plan, this recommendation?
I guess I would plan on spending towards the higher end of the range on the bookkeeping person, because I think in today's employment world, it's going to be hard to find somebody for much less than the high end of that range.
I would agree.
Do you think we need to adjust that?
Well, I would say that we should be prepared to maybe add to it. I'm not that up to date on what salaries are these days, but I think finding a good bookkeepers in this employment situation we have right now is going to be pretty difficult without paying a good wage.
Mhm.
But maybe the upper end of that range will cover it.
Patty, how does this compare with salaries of other similar positions? And
Well, I will agree that COVID has made things a little more competitive, which could be a good thing, I guess. I did check some of the job websites to ensure that this was a general range for Hood River in Portland metro area, and it seems like it's somewhere in the range. We probably could go higher. But I think it's still within the range. I'm happy to put a higher, bump it up to 60,000 if that's.
Well, I'm just saying, be prepared to have it probably take the higher end of the range that you've got there to hire somebody.
Yeah. Understood.
Yeah, I don't know any changes need to be made.
Okay.
It's a good comment. I agree.
Okay. Okay.
okay, Patty, I take it we need to make a motion on this and vote on this?
Yeah, I think I'd prefer that you just give us direction to go ahead and post the position and get
Okay.
ready.
Do we have a motion to approve this and go forward right ASAP?
I'll make that motion to approve the recruiting of a bookkeeper administrative assistant as presented.
We have a second?
Second that.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
And Letty had to step out a minute. She said she would log back in momentarily. I'd like to have her vote on that one. I think if we can hold that a minute. The transit master plan, work plan. Actually, so the board, there was some lack of clarity from the last meeting as to whether the board wanted to hire a consultant to do the entire TMP or for the staff to complete that in-house. But Patty, am I correct in understanding now that with this bookkeeping administrative assistant help, you expect staff would be able to manage the rest of that workload in-house?
I think, well,
Consultant.
we do have additional resources set aside for some extra consultant help on that. That has always been in our budget. And so we would be probably hiring a consultant as we had planned to do some of the land use planning and some of the other planning. But at this point, we are feeling, excuse me, we are feeling confident that we will we have what we need to move forward with the transit master plan with the hiring of this position. Sorry. For this year.
Okay. Are there any questions for Patty about the idea of hiring a consultant to do the entire TMP, or do we have anyone who's advocating that approach from the board?
I think I want to, I don't know how to keep belaboring this issue, but what I see is, you know, we had the mix up with John leaving. And now we're like kind of just piecemealing all these things. We've got this deadline coming, and I feel like we are just delaying sort of this inevitable, I don't know, it seems a little, to me, a little bit piecemealish, but I also trust and respect the people here working, but I'm thinking, and then, yeah, I don't, in a way, I'm like, well, I don't know. Some part of me thinks, well, maybe we better just have a professional consulting group just come in and do that. Well, I see the value of people that are locally and have been with the agency also having that, but it seems like we're cutting down to deadlines. And
well, I will just say this, that while I think a lot of people think that hiring a consultant frees up a lot of staff time, and there certainly are parts where it will, there is a lot of staff time required to manage a consultant, particularly with the transit master plan, because staff really is the experts. And so a lot of times you're sort of having to download a lot of information and sort of provide guidance that, yeah. So while I think there are pros and cons to both approaches, I know that we've been participating on the transit development plan that is being done by a large firm in Wasco County, and I think that we've been able to see the pros and cons of using a firm to do some of that.
I mean, I understand that, but I think at the same time, we're going to be training the part-time consultant and the new staff member. So we're still, it's going to be draining. I think even the hiring process is going to be, you know, an onboarding. So. I mean, ultimately, I feel like I'm new on the show here, and I feel like I respect the people that are like right in it, like doing the work. So I take your recommendation, but I'm like, oh my gosh. And then Amy's going to be taking a break in January, and you're just kind of like, oh, if there's something. And I'm sorry, just expressing my concerns. I know that, well, we're so lucky to have had you here committed. I mean, in working at you know, on behalf of CAT, I know that you also had a vision at one point that he would be sunsetting out of this role sooner than later. So just feel like there's a lot of, with all that, then we also are going to be looking at hiring another executive director. So it's just a huge shakeup. So I wonder how much I get concerned about putting too much stress on who we have here. Yeah,
I think we need to be mindful not to pile more stress on this staff. I hope that you feel significantly, you know, that your stress is significantly alleviated by the hiring of the bookkeeper, administrative assistant, and also the consultant that we've approved, the short-term consultant that we've approved on the pieces of the TMP that have the short deadlines coming up. And we have already approved that person is starting soon. So while I understand your concern about the piecemeal nature, Megan, it's where we are with our decisions so far. I take it we're not talking about reeling any of those back in. So,
well, and I'm also presuming that when we hire the ED this time, we're going to be hiring somebody that's ready to step into the position with very little training, and that Patty will be able to work on the TMP then primarily. Is that the case?
I think so. And because of COVID, I think the likelihood is we won't really be able to go out to, with a large public engagement plan, or probably won't want to. And depends a little bit on what we decide with the consultant, but probably won't want to until March or April, and then we should be pretty fully staffed up by then. So, you know, I do think it likely will be that the transit master plan, a good portion of it will carry over into the new fiscal year, and there will be opportunities for you all to, you know, add additional resources to it. But right now, I think we feel pretty confident with the folks that the grant resources that we are using right now to help us with the TMP. And I think the only piece that we're just at this point trying to play catch up, and that's been more stressful than anything else, because we do feel like we need to start, particularly the public engagement plan, starting to engage some of the groups that we want to help with that effort. So that's been more my stress than the actual other pieces, the demographic data. A lot of that data is stuff we've worked on in-house before as part of the coordinated human services plan, and just need to do some more recent updates. So I feel like we have it under control, but I so appreciate you thinking about us and taking that. I think if we get into trouble, I definitely will be back at the board asking for a little more support. But right now, I feel pretty good about where we are. If you'd asked me 2 weeks ago, I probably wouldn't have. But right now, we're moving in a good direction again.
Yeah, I also like to second the appreciation of the concern. I think it's great to know that the board is thinking about that. It makes me feel supported. I mean, I think either way there's going to be work. It's just a different type of work. And I think if we know a certain direction, then we can make that plan. And then we can make the plans for the next month, the next 6 months, the next 9 months, so that we can have everything kind of in line. It's also helpful that we're kind of going into the slower season. We're not going to be in the summer anymore. There'll be the Gorge Mountain Express and other stuff like that. But I think that'll be helpful. But I think it's just mostly just having that plan and then knowing what we need to do in order to meet our deliverables and our goals, and just kind of getting the job done. I think there was another point I was going to make, but I forgot. So I'm sorry.
Okay, I'd like to bring us back to the vote on the bookkeeper administrative assistant hiring proposal. Amy, can you review for me who we have motions from and votes from?
I'm sorry, I did not have that written down specifically.
Greg made the motion.
Greg made the motion,
Megan
I can second
seconded
it.
We had everybody but Letty because she wasn't here.
Okay, so I thought Letty was going to come right back on, but I'd like to continue without her. So I also vote yes on that proposal. And as for the Transit Master Work Plan, do we need a motion on that one as well, or do we? Yes.
No, I think at this point, I would suggest that we just move forward with what we had planned. And then if additional resources are required or additional staffing is required to help us further as this proceeds, we would come back to the board and ask for that. But I think at this point, we feel like we can handle we can handle the objectives between now and then.
Okay, thank you. Are there any upcoming events?
Nope. No.
So the operations that Ty is planning to hold an operations committee meeting. He has yet to schedule that. I think Greg and Jeff and somebody else, I can't remember, is on that
Me.
committee. And Daryl, sorry, thank you, Daryl, is on that committee. So he'll be working with the three of them to schedule a meeting that will appear on our events page, and we will notice it as public for those who are interested in attending. And then I don't know, Laura, do you want to set a date for the special board meeting at this point?
In the,
Talk about the executive director position and the hiring.
yeah, so we were aiming for the first week of October. Is that what you're thinking, Patty?
That would work for my schedule, yeah.
Maybe the best thing is to stick with the same time on a Wednesday.
And I don't have, somebody tell me what day that is. Is that
It's the 6th, Wednesday, October 6th.
okay?
Are there obvious conflicts around the table here with board members?
I'll be gone up north again that week, probably most likely, but so far I've always been able to get a connection when I've been wherever
Okay.
I've been.
Okay, I'd sure like to have you participate. And so this won't be deep into the weeds. This is just kind of the outlines of our hiring process, and also looking closer at the just nailing down that job description and what we want to prioritize for those job duties and skills that we're looking for. We're not going to go in deep on the questions or interview plan. That would be up to a committee, which we can form at that time.
So Laura, would you be getting out what you're working on this weekend back to this board ahead of time so we can look and provide comments?
Yes, I've sent that to Patty already. I think we'd be able to get that to you. Patty, did you think you can get that out this week?
I will get it out first thing Monday. I'm taking tomorrow and Friday off.
So, we could even do this 2 weeks from today on the 29th, at least by my schedule. Would you feel ready to do that then, Patty?
That would work for me as well.
Or the 22nd, actually. I mean, I know there's concern about wanting to get that job description posted soon.
Yeah, I think the sooner we can get this resolved, the better,
Okay.
since we've already talked about posting it for 90 days.
Right. So the 22nd, is that doable?
Works for me.
Works
Okay.
for me.
So Wednesday as well.
Mhm.
Yep, that's next Wednesday, 4 o'clock.
That doesn't work for me.
Okay,
It doesn't work for Megan.
It's okay. For me, Wednesday, I need like 2 months, and I've got all my third Wednesdays blocked, but that's a day I'm in Portland, and I can't really take off that quickly. It's okay.
okay.
You can provide comments via email and we can
Yes,
send out.
I can
Yeah.
totally do that.
Okay, and I will be meeting this week to talk a little bit too, Megan, so
Great.
hopefully you'll have seen what we have there. And we can talk about that. Okay, so the 22nd, let's schedule that for the special meeting.
Hey,
Okay, do we have a motion to adjourn for today?
I'll make that motion. Motion to adjourn.
And a second?
Megan will second.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
All right.
All right, chair votes aye, and the meeting is adjourned at 5:22. See you guys next week. Thank you.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
Right.
Oh, oops, I didn't-
problem.
nobody used that.
Gotta make that be in person.
Yeah.
The last time I saw a bunch of snacks here, I didn't see snacks here.
I'm sorry.
Kind of hungry. I was kind of. Just kidding.
We have a whole snack shack, literally.